this week's Touch Basin's Hole, we have joining us via video link a Korean-American lawyer come food blogger who goes by the moniker the Korean Vegan. She's been blogging about vegan food since 2016, but when the pandemic hit last year, she decided to make short-form videos for the social media platform TikTok. Her videos not only show beautifully shot footage of her preparing a wide range of foods, but instead of overlaying the audio with instructions, she talks about her personal experiences, life lessons, and social issues as well. And these videos have clearly connected with viewers, as she has amassed over 2 million followers in less than a year. I'm delighted to say that Joanne Molinaro, the Korean vegan, has joined us now from Chicago. Miss Molinaro, it's great to have you on the show today.
It's great to be here.
So as I mentioned, you're a lawyer by day, but you run the food blog, The Korean Vegan. How did that vegan journey and the blog begin?
Well, the vegan journey began in 2016, and the blog quickly followed after that, largely as a tool for myself. I was very nervous when I decided to adopt a plant-based diet that I wouldn't be able to eat all the food that I grew up eating, like kimchi and galbi and bulgogi. And I really didn't want to spend the rest of my life without those foods. So I created the Korean Vegan as a way to challenge myself to come up with plant-based versions of those meals that I had grown up eating. That was back in 2016, and at that time, the Korean Vegan was really just a food blog. All I did was create plant-based versions of these recipes. And it wasn't until probably about 6 or 7 months, or maybe even a year after that, that I decided to incorporate some of the other elements of the blog that you now see.
Right, and then last year you started uploading videos on TikTok. How did that come about?
You know, I joined TikTok in the summer of last year, and it was smack in the middle of the global pandemic. I think we were all at fairly high anxiety levels. And one of the reasons I joined TikTok was because I needed a place where I could sort of wind down and not have to think about all the things that were happening in the outside world. I was also incredibly inspired by the young people in the community on TikTok, and very specifically the Korean American community on TikTok. I had felt a little bit disconnected from the Korean community, A, because I had gone vegan, and B, because in my workplace there aren't a lot of other Korean people. So I thought that TikTok would be a great chance for me to reconnect with the Korean American community while also being energized by the young people there. And that's what I did. I had no intention of posting food content, but again, was inspired by other content creators to do that. And, 7 months later, or a few months later, I was sort of amazed by the results.
Right, you've amassed a huge following. Now, through the videos, you not only show you preparing food, but most of the time, you actually don't talk about the food you're preparing. You're talking about your family history, personal experiences, and even social issues. How did that format come about?
So that format has been in existence in writing on Instagram for several years. So in 2017, after sort of the political upheaval here in the United States, I thought that a sort of gentle way to try and reach out across what I saw was a major division in our country, particularly as it surrounded immigration issues and immigration policies in our country, was to share a few stories about my family. We are an immigrant family, and I wanted people to understand it at a very human level and at a very relatable level. So I started adding very short little stories about my parents in my Instagram captions. When I started my TikTok over the summer and I started posting food videos in particular, I figured, well, might as well just do the same thing I was doing on Instagram, only now using my voice, since there's no real caption feature on TikTok.
Right, and as you said, it's been a huge success. You have over 2 million followers on your TikTok account. What do you think has been the secret behind that success? And what do you think viewers are getting out of the content?
Well, I think part of it is because they are very personal stories and they're very relatable stories. There are a lot of people who have an immigrant background on TikTok. But not only that, even if you're not from an immigrant family, or not from a Korean family, or even an Asian family, or even a family of color, there's still so many things that are really relatable about the immigrant experience. You know, feelings of isolation, feelings of being different, being challenged by how the outside world perceives you. These are challenges that everyone has in every walk of life. And that was really the point of sharing these stories, is showing people how much we have in common as human beings, but then also challenging people to understand what it's like growing up, you know, for example, in the United States, when you're speaking the wrong language or you're eating the wrong food. And I think because these stories speak to people at such a human level and sort of fill that need that we all have of, we don't want to feel alone. I think that's one of the reasons my TikTok account has resonated with so many people.
Which of your videos have been most popular? Which story were you telling? Which dish were you making? And what has the reaction been like?
So probably my most popular food video is my kampung tubu video. That was my veganized version of kampungi, which used to be one of my favorite foods
Mm.
before going vegan. And to that food video, I overlaid a story about me and my dad. My dad is my most popular character on TikTok, but it was a story about how he reacted to the finalization of my divorce. And, you know, what a very vulnerable moment that was for me. My Korean parents, I was worried that they would very much disapprove of the fact that I had gotten a divorce. And my father did the exact opposite. He congratulated me and he indicated to me that he was very proud for my decision. And that really resonated with the TikTok community. And you know, it allowed me to share a side of myself that I was a little bit nervous about, but you know, felt very safe doing.
I think that shows the honesty and openness that you have in your videos. I think that is part of your success, about how you brazen confidence that you have when you talk about your life experiences. And I think that inspires a lot of people, as well as obviously the gorgeously shot food content. What does your family think about your videos that you upload, when you, especially when you talk about these personal stories? And what has been their response?
You know, I'm very lucky that I have a really good relationship with my parents. And one of the things I've learned through the TikTok community and others is that not everyone is as blessed as I am to have such an open and, you know, really positive relationship with my parents. So when I share these videos about my family, you know, I think some people always worry, well, are you airing dirty laundry? And I'm like, no, I don't really have any dirty laundry. I have a really amazing relationship with my parents, and I feel very privileged that I get to honor them with these videos. I think my parents are really proud of me, but to be honest, I think they're just more proud of themselves at being such amazing parents and being featured as such incredible parents. And it's all truthful. I'm really immensely grateful for how much they've done for me growing up and how much they continue to do for me even as an adult.
I also very much like your auntie or komo advice videos, I think, which are one of the most popular ones as well. That's when you're preparing food whilst also giving sage advice straight to the camera, as if you're talking to the viewer and telling them how to live their life and giving them advice, as well as at the end of the video telling them to eat up like a real auntie as well.
Yeah, so that was inspired by my nephew. My nephew is 3 years old and he's one of my favorite human beings in the world. And, you know, it occurred to me one day, my gosh, I can't wait until he's older and he's like, Como, you know, this girl broke my heart, or Como, I didn't get into this college that I wanted to, or something like that. And I get to have these, you know, heart to heart conversations with him and maybe give advice that his mom and dad wouldn't give, but that only a kumo can give. And then to follow that up with, of course, like you said, the, you know, 어서 먹어, 빨리, it's time to eat.
It sounds like you're going to be an awesome komo. As I
Oh,
mentioned, you
I
not
hope
only
so.
talk about your personal experiences, but you also tackle social and political issues as well. Something that you said that you wanted to do when you started this TikTok account. And more social media influencers have been taking this route, raising their voices on such issues. What are your thoughts on this trend? What kind of influence do you think influencers can have?
Influencers can have enormous impact on the way people think about some of these larger political issues. And therefore, it's important that influencers not just communicate their thoughts on them, but do so effectively and responsibly. I think that it's very easy to get emotional about some of these issues, and it's important to temper that emotion with, thoughts about how to be strategic with your messaging and with your activism. Because at the end of the day, at a certain point, that communication can turn into activism. And if that's the case, it's important to be responsible about it. I think that the overall trend is a good one, but ultimately, it's very important that all of us, whatever spectrum of communication we're in, whether it's in digital media, social media, traditional media, we need to be authentic. We need to be true to ourselves. And instead of doing this purely for the audience, it does need to be an extrapolation of the actual feelings and thoughts that you have about any political issue.
Now, I understand that you have a cookbook and memoir coming out later this year in autumn called the Korean Vegan Cookbook, Reflections and Recipes from Omma's Kitchen. What can you tell us about this project?
Oh, so I started this book almost 3 years ago. It's been a long time coming. As you mentioned, I am a lawyer full time, and so that takes up 80% of my time. But when I did have time, I was able to devote it to writing this book, which is a collection of stories, many of which I've shared snippets of through TikTok, but some of which are sort of never been shared before. And these are stories that my father and my mother shared with me, and that I, kind of wrote down, scribbled down in an attempt to share with those who might be interested. In addition to that, there are 80 recipes. And again, these are just veganized versions of my favorite foods growing up, like, kampungi and jjajangmyeon and jampong and, kalguksu, all of these things that I grew up that I was so scared I would never be able to eat again when I went vegan. That's all kind of put in this book together with, again, the stories of my parents.
As you said, you're a full-time lawyer during the day. My question is, where do you find the time to do everything? With the social media accounts, this book?
It can be a little daunting, and there are times where I do feel very much like pulling out all my hair because I'm like, there's just not enough time. There's not enough Joanne to go around. But I do have a job that does afford me some flexibility. I'm very lucky in that I'm not one of those persons that needs to, pop in at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. There's no set hours for me. As long as my clients are getting the service that they require, they don't really care what time of day I'm doing it. I will say that I spend a lot of my weekends doing the social media stuff, taping multiple different recipes and putting together multiple different stories and then sort of spreading those out through the week, as opposed to trying to tape everything every single day, which is what I used to do at the very beginning. But quite frankly, with all the equipment that's involved now, it's simply not feasible anymore.
Well, it still sounds like you're more organized than I am personally. Anyway, the TikTok videos, as you said, began during the pandemic. Do you think you'll continue to make these videos on TikTok even after the pandemic comes to an end?
I absolutely do. And I think that's one of the exciting things about what the future holds. I'm not sure what the landscape of TikTok will be in the next year now that people are getting vaccinated and we're able to see each other in person. I've made so many friends through TikTok, and we're already talking about, all right, we're going to hang out at this time of year and we're going to collaborate and we're going to do a video together. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. And that type of collaboration across TikTok can only mean really beautiful and magical content, which I'm really looking forward to both participating in and watching.
Well, we look forward to more of your videos and as well as your forthcoming book. We've been talking to the Korean vegan Joanne Molinaro. Thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me.